classes a week.
Allow us to journey into these altered states.
It really whacked me psyche though, big time.
If you just sit reading books, you know, it's the shadow because you're not going to be in your body.
Welcome to Creating Space, bringing people together. Real conversations with real people, telling stories and sharing our gifts right here in the heart of Liverpool, inspiring new ideas, education and co-creation.
Choose a challenge that lights you up and is going to make a difference in the world.
Creating Space.
Sponsored by the Scouse Guru app.
Wow, welcome back. It's the 5th of August 2022. This is episode 23 of Creating Space. My name is Martin Bone. Thank you for tuning in. I'm really excited actually with this. We're in a new studio with the Liverpool podcasting studios, and we've got our main man Jacob here and doing some filming, and I feel really comfortable right now. So I'm looking forward to today's conversation. I've just got a really great friend in the studio today, a fella, a brother, a Scouse Jedi, who I love very much and who have been on a personal journey with over the last couple of years, and I think collectively to see how this guy operates and to see how this man's transformation has really been something wonderful to witness over the last couple of years. And so we got Mr. Hunter, Mr. Jonathan Hunter in the studio. Jonny, welcome.
Hello, brother.
Welcome, Hot Rocks. Welcome. We've got a lot of personal jokes, so please excuse me if we throw in some personal jokes that you might not get through the podcast today. But we're here to talk about Jonny's story. We're here to talk about transformation. We're here to talk about all matters related really to personal development and spiritual development and the things we love to talk about here at Creating Space. It's great to be back in the studio. We've been a bit quiet recently. It is the summertime, but Jonny and I have been working hard in the background. We've got a lot of things that we're about to birth, in September, October of this year. And we're just ready to relaunch a lot of things with all matters related to the Martin Bone meditation ecosystem. So yeah, it's all good. We're here, we're live, and we're just gonna go with it. And I feel like it's the best way to be. So thanks for tuning in. I hope you enjoy what we're about to talk about, and then yeah, I'm sure we'll be seeing you at some stage in the future. So, Mr. Hunter, how are we?
I'm good, brother.
How are you feeling?
Yeah, feeling a little excited actually, sat in the seat. Been a while. I think the last time I was in the studio with you guys was after Men Without Masks.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's like a nice flutter of excitedness.
You've just been on a sort of, I suppose we're all on a journey, aren't we? But I know it's fresh. It's very fresh for you. You've just been away, haven't you, in Greece, at a sort of, at an Osho commune, / retreat centre, which is certainly something I want to feel into shortly. But let's just circle back a little bit, because let's take it to Glastonbury. Actually, I know we were in Glastonbury together this year, and it was your first one, wasn't it? You know what I mean? It was like you popped your Glasto cherry. And for me, I've been going to Glastonbury since 2007, and it's actually shaped, or it's played a big part in how I've transformed as a person. And it's always a great sign, almost a signpost for me, to measure where I'm up to in my life. You look back and think, wow, I haven't half changed over the years. Probably going to bed a little bit earlier this time, you know what I mean? This old dog, But it was your first Glastonbury, and I think the reason I want to talk about Glastonbury is that it's not just a festival, is it? You know what I mean? It's a celebration. So let's feel into how that was for you. You know what I mean? I know you've got a couple of stories to tell. Some that we can tell on the camera, and a couple that you can't tell on the camera. But let's lean into that first and see where it all takes us. So, how was it for you?
Well, it was brilliant, but I almost didn't get in. I was very lucky to get in, and it goes back to what we were saying before, that it's a deeply, deeply spiritual place there. I had a bit of trouble getting in at first. I was going in on someone else's ticket, and there was just this moment at the first gate where I'd handed me ticket to a young girl. I thought, out of all these people, who's the soundest? Who's going to let me in?
Yeah.
So don't look anything like this person on the ticket. Who's the nicest one? And I picked a young girl and looked her in the eyes, and I was like, come on.
Morning. Yeah.
How are you, sweetie? You're having a good day? Yeah. Oh. And she just blanked me. She was like, called one of the attendants over, and he come over and went, mate, it's not happening. You're not getting in on this ticket. And yeah, my heart just sank. We'd had such a boss journey in the car.
Yeah.
Lugging all the tent and the bags is
we were up
heavy
early,
enough.
weren't we, on that Thursday morning?
Yeah.
We were excited, weren't we? Our job was in the back cracking jokes, like we were game, weren't we, you know?
Yeah. And to get all the way up to the point where you can just see everyone like 10 metres away having a great time, and you just think, I'm meant to be in there.
Yeah.
Like, there's no way I'm not getting in. So I just said to the fella, I was like, mate, give me the ticket, I'll just go to another gate.
Yeah.
And he went, well, you can try, but I don't think it'll work.
Yeah.
And like, you just got to trust.
There was that moment, didn't we? Had to part ways in that moment, didn't we? You know what I mean? I was like, you know what? I remember many times, there's been times where I've gone to Glastonbury without a ticket, you know what I mean? And but with this like intent that like I'm going and I'm gonna get in. I don't know how I'm gonna get in, but I'm getting in. Do you know what I mean? And there's loads of people down there, obviously, you know, doing the best, and there's people down there spinning in. Do you know what I mean? And you know, it tends to be like a sort of a big Scouse thing, doesn't it? You know what I mean? Everyone's like down there, and I think in that moment, I was like, you know what, I'll see you in a couple of hours. Just being tested. It's his first Glastonbury. Let's see what he got in him. Do you know what I mean? I know you're resilient, Mr. Hunter, so, you know.
Yeah, it was one of them. It was just a test. And it was almost initiating in a way. It was like, I'd come all the way with you in the car. We'd got to the front, and then it was like, the universe just cut us off and was like, right, you've just got to sort this out by yourself now.
Don't leave me.
And I remember I walked down a path to like a little tent, because I was trying to find this other gate where my friends were. And I seen this like white van, and I was like, yeah, mate, do you know where this gate A is? And then this big 4x4 pulled up, and all these security guards had these lads in cuffs, and I went, what's going on there? And he went, oh yeah, they're just throwing lads out who were on fake tickets. And I'm stood there next to this tent like, oh, friggin' hell, if they catch me. So I ended up walking to this other gate and meeting Ozzy on the thing, on the little turnstile, lets me through. And because it's my first time, I didn't realise there's like, the first turnstile, then there's another one, is wristband.
Yeah.
So I got my ticket punched on the first one, and then where you get the wristband,
they still check the ticket, don't they, a little bit? And
I'm looking, I'm like, oh God, I've got to pick out another sound person here. Who am I going to pick? And I seen this guy, and he looked half nice, and I walked over, seen his name tag, and I was like, oh, you're all right, my name's Jonny, nice to meet you. Shook his hand, and he looked at the ticket and went, are you sure you're called Jonny? And I went, yeah, my name's Peter. Peter Jonny then. You're in, mate. And it was like, big sigh of relief. And just that knowing that I'm meant to be here. I'm meant to be having a great time with all my friends.
Yeah.
And just that trust that I'm meant to be.
Yeah, I was like, I was setting the tents up at this time, sweating. You know what I mean? Like, you get there and you're in, and then there's actually like another journey. You know what I mean? You've got to find a pitch. Then you've got to set your tents up. You know what I mean? And it's all part of the fun. And I got that call, and it was like, I'm in. I was like, of course you're in, you know what I mean? And then, you know, once you're in, there's just a massive feeling of relief, isn't there? You know what I mean? Of feeling like, wow, I'm here now. You know, let the games begin as such, do you know what I mean? And I know on that first day, we had like, it was almost like, I gave you a big walk around, didn't I? You know what I mean? Just trying to get a feel for the place. And it's so big, it's so vast, it's so diverse. You know, it's what I love about the place is that it's like a city, isn't it? You know what I mean? It's not just like stages that have been set up, like, you know, it's all the sort of, it's the finer details, I think, you know what I mean, which make Glastonbury as it is. And obviously, you know, it sits on sacred land, and, you know, the culture and the diversity, the people that go there, and Glastonbury itself is such a magical place. But, you know, that first day, we were just getting a feel for it, weren't we? You know what I mean? The weather was unbelievable, wasn't it?
Yeah, roasting.
Yeah, it was lovely, wasn't it? And then, you know, and then as time goes through, you know, you just sort of settle in. You find your bearings, don't you? And then, you know, you take your first few mushrooms, didn't you? And then away you go.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so how was it then, the festival? Like, you know, sort of talk me through how the experience was for you. You know, have you ever been to a big festival as such?
Yeah, I've been to festivals before, but there's just something unique about that place. As soon as you walk in, it's like you're entering a different world almost. Like the minute you go through that gate, you're in like this bubble. And time and space just cease to exist for those 4 or 5 days.
Yeah.
And it's such a credit to the people who have built that community of Glastonbury that there's something for everyone there.
Yeah.
And there's so many diverse ranges of people. It really doesn't feel like a festival. It feels like a global gathering of just people in this wonderful place. And yeah, there's just so many experiences that are flicking through my mind now that I want to speak about. I'm like, oh my gosh, remember that, remember this, remember that. And there's not a second wasted in that place.
No.
Everything's magical. It's not a moment where you're sitting around thinking, oh, I want to check my phone or I wonder what's going on outside here. You almost forget that the outside world exists.
Yeah, you're totally present, aren't you?
Yeah.
Calls you to the present moment, doesn't it? You know what I mean? I think that there's so much colour, and I mean it definitely tickles the senses, like, doesn't it? You know what I mean? You know, you're looking around and the diversity in the offerings. Do you know what I mean? You know, not just musically, you know, but with the food. And then with all the sorts of different areas that you can explore, do you know what I mean? You know, I love that there's parts of Glastonbury, you know, by the sort of ancient futures and the green futures, you know what I mean? And you tend to get just a really wonderful, weird, quirky type of person up there, do you know what I mean? And I think over the years I've come to love them areas. You know, there's a lot of liberation. You know, I mean, the whole festival's liberating, isn't it? You know what I mean? You just feel like I can just let go here.
Yeah.
I can just let go. You know, I can just be myself. I can just relax. I can enjoy what's on offer. You know what I mean? And I think what I love about Glastonbury is you take a look around, and you know, if you're just witnessing and watching people, and everyone's just happy.
Yeah.
Everyone's happy. You know what I mean? Everyone's having a laugh. It's like they're given permission.
Yeah.
They're given full permission. So like, you can be yourself here, you know. You know what I mean? You can like wear a crazy wig, you know what I mean, and get dressed up in whatever outfit you want, you know what I mean? I think like after a few, you know, a few drinks, and when things get a little bit wonky, you know, there's a few stalls where you can start buying all mad props and that, you know what I mean? So as the sort of day goes by, you know, you end up like with all different outfits on.
More and more outfit, don't you?
You know, so yeah, it was good. Was there any like really special moments for you there in Glastonbury?
Oh, God, yeah, there's so many really. It's hard to just pull one out the bag. But I really do think that what you've just said there is so right, that people have permission to be themselves when they're there. And that's what makes it so special, is that you get the best of everyone. Whereas on the day-to-day in the street, people can barely make eye contact for a couple of seconds without going into their own story.
Yeah.
Whereas when they're in Glastonbury, it's like they know they're there for 4 days.
Yeah.
They know they don't have to return to life until after that. So there's just like this big weight that gets released from everybody.
Yeah.
And every single person you meet in there is willing to connect and willing to be open. And that's what makes it so special. Like every moment's amazing, but it's just the whole vibe of openness.
Celebration, innit?
Openness, celebration, freedom, liberation, which is just what you don't get on the street.
Yeah, and it's just almost the total opposite to the counterculture that we're living in, isn't it? You know what I mean? You know, I think there was a few really lovely moments for me is I think on that Friday afternoon, you know, where you feel like you've really arrived, you know what I mean? And, you know, we stumbled upon it, a place called the Glade Dome, you know what I mean? And it was all like it all just happened at once, you know what I mean? It was me, you and Jordan, and then a couple of my old friends, you know, they sort of arrived, and then there was like a few of your lads, do you know what I mean? And then all of a sudden they just ended up like being a fan of us, and it was quite synchronistic, wasn't it? And there was these DJs, they came on, and they were banging out like Afro tech, weren't they? You know what I mean?
Beautiful music.
And it was just like, yeah, we're the party's starting now. Do you know what I mean? It was about 2:30 Friday afternoon. I was like, yeah, we're in for this, you know. And it was a great day, that, wasn't it?
Yeah.
You know, your mate, what was your mate's name?
Jack.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's a belter.
Yeah, he's cracking lad, you know, and the banter and the fun that he brought to the table. So shout out to Jack right now. Nice one, Jack. Had a great day there. So coming back from Glastonbury, then, you know, how was your vibe? You know what I mean? How was your frequency from experience like that? And then, you know, where did, you know, what's been happening since, you know, you got back from Glastonbury?
Well, I guess when I came back, it's like you've had your eyes opened almost to the potential of what it can be in community.
Yeah.
And the power of being in spaces where that's the vibe all the time, you know. And it's kind of hard to reintegrate a little bit after Glasgow.
Yeah.
I think, especially because it's my first time as well.
Yeah.
It was just like, wow, what an amazing experience. How can I bring that back into my daily life but still live my life, you know?
Yeah.
What can I bring from that experience and integrate into my life? And yeah, the big thing that stood out for me was just connection. It's like,
nice.
when I look at my values, like service has always been my top value, just like serve, health, and then connection. But after Glastonbury, it's like someone had gone inside me and jumbled up my insides, and it was like, nah, connecting with other people is your highest priority now.
Yeah.
That's got to be top of the list.
Yeah.
When you make a decision, you've got to bear that in mind before you say yes to any decision. It's got to be about connection.
Yeah.
And it's great when you understand your value system, because you end up living a life that's aligned to what you want to do, and you don't come into much resistance. And yeah, I guess after Glastonbury, it just changed a lot of things for me. It was like, wow, I need to start reaching out and going for more connection in my daily life.
Yeah. It's a great, almost like a great bridge, isn't it? You have an experience like that and you think, wow, like, how can I create this in my reality? Do you know what I mean? And, you know, what decisions do I need to make? You know, what people do I need to surround myself with? What people do I need to let go of? Do you know what I mean? You know, and how can I almost create this celebration so it becomes like a natural default? Do you know what I mean? Obviously, Glastonbury is Glastonbury and it's a magical place. But I think when you have a taste of the liberation and then you come back into, your day-to-day endeavouring, then it's like, it can shock you into a place of reflection and contemplation, can't it? Because you can go back into a vibration and a frequency where you're like, which can be heavy, you know, which can be mundane, you know, mediocre, you know, and then all of a sudden you're like, wow, hang on a minute, I'm not waiting, you know, for the next Glastonbury to feel this, or I'm not waiting, you know, for the next holiday. It's like, and I think that's the magic of what, you know, we're trying to almost awaken within other people's lives is to be more mindful, and then within that mindfulness is to make decisions and committed decisions to create a reality for yourself that is one of celebration, connectedness, openness, you know, and these are the you know, almost the vibrations. This is the energy that really I assume a lot of people want to adopt, you know what I mean? And so just maybe before we go into talking about, you know, what happened at Greece, and then allowing that to circle back and to feel into, you know, what is unfolding for you, is like, tell us a little bit about your backstory. Do you know what I mean? Like, because I know you're a photographer, you know, you're into digital marketing, and so that you're into, you know, you've been working alongside me for, you know, what, 2.5 years, you know what I mean? And so tell us just like a little bit about yourself. You know, if someone was to ask you, what do you do now? Or what have you been doing? Because I know there is some shifting going on for you at the moment, where you're potentially going from an old identity, you know what I mean, to a new one, you know what I mean? And there's an overlap right now, isn't there, with the endeavours that you've been exploring in your life to potentially where you're heading towards. So, you know, if someone said in the street, what you do, what would you
It's like that age-old question when people ask you,
what
who
do you
are
do?
you?
Yeah.
Who am I? And they're like, who am I? Yeah, I think at the moment, the default answer is, I'm a digital marketing wizard, do photography, do copywriting, do videography, web design.
Yeah.
That's the identity that's kind of carried me over the past couple of years.
Yeah.
And that's how I like to show up and serve, with those skills. But alongside those years of service in that area, there's like this undercurrent of self-development and spirituality and deep learning. And started with Wim Hof, ice baths, cold showers and breath work, and then slowly progressed into meditation and yoga. And it just keeps continually expanding while I'm doing all these things for this identity of Jonathan Hunter.
Yeah.
He's the digital marketing wizard. Ring him if you need something.
Yeah.
There's always this undercurrent of this other self that's being built, like a deeper version of myself.
Yeah.
And yeah, I guess more recently this year, I've really taken a few big steps into pursuing things that I value more deeply than the creative side of myself.
Yeah.
Especially from the work with Men Without Masks, working with men. I've just had this big gut feeling that I want to serve men and help men. And yeah, at the beginning of the year, I took a decision to take a breathwork practitioner course with biodynamic breathwork and trauma release. And that's this modality that really helps people's body unlock chronic tensions and release trauma in a really safe and effective way. And I kind of went on that journey because Matt, who we all know,
Matt Gunn,
I watched him work as magic on retreat, and I think it was probably one of the first times I'd ever seen a grown man cry. Like just absolutely open up and let everything
How he
go.
held space for another man.
Yeah. And I was there with the camera getting to capture this beautiful moment.
Yeah.
And it's just like one of them moments where you're almost in a bubble.
Yeah.
And I was like, wow, this is so powerful and profound.
Yeah.
There's so much power in serving people outside of these creative skills that I can lean into.
Yeah.
And initially, I went on the journey with BBTRS for my own development. I thought, wow, if I can learn to access my own feelings at that level of depth, that's just going to serve me.
Yeah.
And then from that place, I can go out and serve others. So yeah, I've went on that journey for the past 7 or 8 months and been to Poland and done like an 8-day in-person workshop, and more recently went to Greece to continue the training. And yeah, there's just this real deep sense of I can show up more in the world. I can serve at a deeper capacity, you know?
Yeah. I also think, like, I know you've potentially at some stage, even though you have such a desire for development as in your personal experience, that sometimes there's that part of you which thinks there's a limitation, isn't there, or there's a level of doubt, or I'm not good enough to step into a new identity, you know what I mean? Who is it that I want to become? What does it look like? And sometimes we don't know what it looks like, do we? Do you know what I mean? I think the values that you hold dear to you is connection and service, and then what is the modality, or what is the container that of the identity of the person you want to adopt. I mean, you're already in deep service, with just you being yourself, you know what I mean? I know you're very much well respected and loved by your family and friends, do you know what I mean, and the people around you and your work colleagues, especially myself and the men without masks, and so where was and this isn't just hasn't come lightly, has it? You know what I mean? You haven't just some sort of jumped on the bandwagon of like, right, I'm going to be a practitioner. I know you've been at this now for a while, haven't you? Do you know what I mean? You've done a lot of your own personal development work for many years, and then it's something that has just naturally occurred. And then as it's presented itself, you've moved towards it because you've been involved in a culture now, especially with, the meditation, Martin Bowl meditation and Men Without Masks since pre-lockdown. It was like, it was early 2020, 2020, wasn't it?
Yeah.
You know, when we first met. And I think within that, I suppose everyone went on a bit of a collective journey, didn't they, of some sort of self-care, self-development, you know, because everyone was on lockdown. Everyone was almost like in the same boat as such, maybe in a different position in the boat, in their own personal dynamic. But there was, people naturally went towards like the stuff that I know you've been feeling into for a while, do you know what I mean? And so, you know, how's it been then, you know, observing and being a part of this change within Liverpool collectively, and then for you naturally going on a deepening of your own self-exploration to serve others?
Well, I'd love to just circle back actually to something you said before about going from one identity to another, because there is almost like that imposter syndrome. It's like, well, who am I to step into this modality, and who am I to almost change everything I offer to the world? And I remember I had this insight while I was away recently. I was like, this imposter syndrome is just like a story that we tell ourselves, like, I can't be this, I can't be that. But if you're aligned to serving others, then it's almost cheeky to say you're an imposter.
Yeah.
Because people need you.
You're cheating yourself, aren't you?
Yeah,
cheating
you're
others.
cheating yourself and you're cheating others. Like, who are you to say you're an imposter? This person or those people need you. And whether you bring massive value to them or it's just a slight change in their life, who are you to withhold your gifts to the world?
That's right.
And it's like, who are you to play small?
Yeah. I think there's just a fear of being judged by others, isn't there, really?
Yeah. And I had that realisation. I was like, who am I to play small? Because to serve is to just be in service.
Yeah.
Nothing else matters. What people think about it, what the image looks like, as long as you align yourself to helping people. Playing small is almost like a cheek to being alive. It's like you've been gifted this life and you're just going to stay small.
I think what a revelation it is, though. I mean, you know, if I can ask at the moment, like, how old are you, Jonny?
27.
27. And so have a mindset and an attitude already of serving. You know what I mean? Like wanting to serve. Do you know what I mean? And you know, I know you very well, and I've been able to watch your development very closely. But I think, you know, for a young man like yourself who's adopting that mindset and then actually put it into action, it's a sense of pioneering and leadership, isn't it? You know what I mean? Breaking free from, you know, the sorts of social norms and the default that people can fall into, you know, and being different, being unique, not playing small, not fitting into the crowd, but, you know, just like being yourself and exploring your gifts and then sharing them gifts with you know, with the world. And so how did that manifest, you know, moving forward?
In terms
Or did you know, really like go, like, you know, especially with the stuff that you've been doing with the BBSR, is it?
BBTRS.
Yeah.
I guess the way it just unfolded was I decided to dive right in, went to Poland, and as I said, it was for my own personal stuff. It was like, I'd love to know this modality back to front so I can use it to serve myself. And then, there was
Because you're willing to look at your own stuff there as well, aren't you?
Yeah, definitely. Like, I know the work's got to be done inside, and you can't really come into the world and serve if you've still got to do some inner work, you know? And there was almost too many moments when I went to Poland for this training, too many moments of confirmation where I was like,
I'm meant to be here.
If I come home and I don't really pursue this, I'm cheating myself and I'm cheating others.
Yeah.
Because no matter what image you put in your head, like, oh, I can't do this until I reach this point, or I can't make an offering until I've got this much training.
Yeah.
That's just story, and that's
right.
just bullshit.
Yeah.
And there was moments I had where I was giving sessions to people in Poland, and then the feedback after, you can feel it from people.
Yeah.
Like how you've shifted something for them.
Yeah.
And it's like, yeah, okay. Put them stories away now.
Yeah.
We're in for this.
Yeah.
So I guess since Poland, I was like, I just knew, I was like, right, I'm following this path of biodynamic breathwork and I'm seeing it to the end.
Yeah. There's a great, I was listening to a podcast last week with Stephen Bartlett, and he was interviewing a guy from Coinbase. And it was great story, and he was talking about action, and there was a phrase where he said, action creates information. You know what I mean? And I was like, well, I like that, you know, and I sort of use a similar model with the stuff that I'm teaching in Liverpool. But I think, you know, you've got to take action no matter what that is. The intent is close to your values. Now you're taking action. And then there's a level of how, you know, you're practicing. Now you're practicing, you know, this new trade of being, isn't it? You know what I mean? And then you're getting out your own way. And then it creates information for feedback. So that's how you get better, you know, at these modalities, do you know what I mean? And I know, you know, you going to Poland, and it wasn't just 8 days in Poland, by the way. You know, I know there's been a lot of work in the background, you know, stuff that you've been feeling into at home, you know, incredible amounts of coursework and you know, and there's layers and levels to this stuff, isn't it? And so who is that you've been getting trained by as well?
The man who created biodynamic breathwork and trauma release is called Giten Tonkov, and he's the main man, really. And he does have other partners and great facilitators who work under the BBTRS umbrella, like Nasaga and Prima Makiva. And he's just got this brilliant team of people who understand trauma, understand the body, and understand breathwork, and how we can just bring together a mixture of elements and really help people safely release trauma. But not just like have an experience where we lay on a mat and we power breathe and our nervous system goes into overload and we're like, oh, that was a great release. And then we wake up the next day and we're exhausted. And then things start coming back. This modality actually teaches people how to expand their capacity to be with traumatic situations or stressful situations. It's great for people with PTSD. It's great for people with anxiety. It's great for people who just really struggle in stressful situations and the body goes into overwhelm. And he's created this beautiful, beautiful system. Beautiful is the word. It's like a work of art, really, when you watch someone go through the process. And over time, it actually builds the nervous system's capacity just to be. To be with a charge. To be in a stressful situation and not shut off or explode. Because if you put that metaphor into like the day of the average man, when we stuff things down and it explodes outwards, it comes out in suppressed rage and, and affect other people. And the ability to be able to stay with that charge and just coolly displace it through the body and let it out without harming others. It's like modern day superpowers. That's what I think. I think these modalities, they're just like modern day superpowers of how to master our experience. And
give us a little, you know, if you can, just for a few minutes, like a sort of a back journey to Giten. You know, who is he, you know what I mean? And what's he done in his personal journey?
Giten has been an amazing part of the Osho community in Pune in India. So we spent a long time in that community going through all of the Osho meditations, doing them for beyond 21 days, like cathartic releases for 21 days, gibberish for 21 days, no mind for 21 days. And he's got a background in body work as well. So he understands the body and all the release points we can be pressing during this cathartic exercise to unwind the tension. He's got an amazing story. If there's anybody who's interested and is listening and thinking, yeah, this is something I'd like to look into, he's got a book called Feel to Heal. And it details his journey, details how he not discovered the modality, but pioneered it almost. Because it takes elements of things that are already tested and tried, like Peter Levine's somatic experience. And he's kind of just compiled all these things that we know to work, brought them into this modality, and it's like, it's just the ultimate one. You know?
I know he had a psychedelic experience, didn't he, as well, which I think it was through ayahuasca or something that I think it brought him to this realisation that he's got a gift. And then he had to share it with the world, you know what I mean?
Yeah, that's in his book as well. He speaks about having that experience, and he said he could see the modality in front of him visually, and he could see how each element that he would bring into the modality, how it affects the body and how it opens up. And he said it was in such clear detail that when he came out of that trip, he was just like, I just know what I've got to do.
I know what I've got to do, yeah.
Yeah, and he's a very special man as well. Like, energetically, when you're in the room with him, you can feel his presence.
Yeah.
And he's just like a sniper.
Yeah.
You know, like when I was in Greece and I was given a session, he can just walk over and he'll just like tap someone in a certain place and there'll be a full-blown release.
Wow.
He's such a master of the body. And it's just great to learn from these men, you know. It's great to be in the same room as him and just soak in all of his experience. Because I just feel like if you're going to learn, you know, go to the masters in the mountains. Like go to the lineage and get the direct experience of people who've lived and breathed it for many, many years. Because the potency of what you'll get from them is just amazing. Yeah.
And, you know, I suppose there's been moments there where, you know, not to, you know, like play your story down here, do you know what I mean? But it's almost like, you know, the lads from Liverpool, you know what I mean? The young lads from Liverpool, and then, you know, you're in this place in, you know, when it was Poland, you know, and you're surrounded by people who really want to develop themselves as well, aren't they? You know what I mean? You know, people on I suppose, without trying to scare anyone listening to this conversation, like a bit of a spiritual quest as such, do you know what I mean? And wanting to understand, I think when we turn the gaze back on ourselves and we really want to understand ourselves a bit better, you know, how we operate, how we behave, I think we're designed to look outside of ourselves, aren't we? And that comes with the eyes, so everything is objectified, you know, and I'm working with this stuff, not just at the level of the body, you know, but at the level of the mind. It's a matter of, you know, just turning the gaze back on yourself, and it's not turning the gaze back on yourself with your eyes. It's turning the feelings and the awareness back upon our own, you know, kingdom as such, and starting to explore, investigate, and adventure this world, you know, with body, mind, and spirit, isn't it? You know, and so how's it been for you, that integration of, like, you know, being in Liverpool? Because I know you spent a lot of time in London. You know, you know, you've been to university, and almost being behind probably a lot of screens. You know, doing what you're doing, a lot of camera work, and now being in Poland, being surrounded by these people of a similar interest, and then just like almost bear witnessing incredible trauma release experiences for others, and being a part of that, your own experience of trauma release, and then facilitating it. How's it been for you?
At first, it was definitely overwhelming. As you say, the kid from Liverpool, like, I remember the first day when we went to Poland, me and Matt actually shared a room, Matt Gunn, and I thought it was going to be like a room of maybe 10, 15 people, and it was a room of 40 people. And not one of them spoke English. German, French, Austrian, Switzerland. And I'm like, am I just a kid from Derby Lane here? What is this really happening? I was almost sat in the room thinking, it's a bit too much. And I was like, no, I've asked for this. Let's get into this. Let's bring Derby Lane and Liverpool into this room. Let's bring me into this crowd. I'm not coming here to be like anybody else. I'm coming here to be myself.
Lovely.
And bring myself to this group of people. And to be in a room full of people and we're all facilitating someone through a release of trauma. I think the word, Craig White likes to use the word sacred. I think I'd use the word godly. There's just something otherworldly about being in that room as the sun's going down and the tears have came and the releases have happened, and it's that period when everyone's integrating at the end of a session and they've had the release, you've brought them back down safely, and you're just kind of like the caregiver. You've got the hands on the head and you're just gently massaging them, or you're putting a blanket over them, and you're just being with another human.
And so, you know, just talking about like the setup, you know what I mean? You know, what does the setup look like if you're holding space for somebody like they're going on a journey, so to speak? You know, what does it look like? You know what I mean? And is it facilitated by music, but you know, obviously the breath, you know what I mean, and certain elements of touch, you know, and you know, what does that look like? And is that consented as well before each session? You know, what's the conversation? You know, run me through the experience a little bit. You know, because I think anyone listening to this be like, wow, okay, because everyone's got trauma, I suppose. You know what I mean? And for anyone who denies it, you know, they're just in denial. And a lot of people do deny their own stuff. And it does. I think a lot of our wounds, they play out unconsciously, don't they? Do you know what I mean? They play out. We're not conscious of the way we behave a lot of the time. So we're unconscious of our subconscious wounding, you know. I think this is, you know, why I love meditation or mindfulness so much, because you become more sensitive with your awareness, almost like your spidey senses. You know, you talked about superpowers before, and this element of like being more aware, or you know, tuning into, you know, parts of you that actually go unnoticed. You know what I mean? And then it's like, how do I work with this behavior, and what modalities are available to me for me to access these deeper layers of self? You know, and then what's on the other side of all this as well? Do you know what I mean? You know, we could call integration, healing, wholesomeness. Like, you know, you being a part of this journey and witnessing these people, what's on the other side of it for them? So talk to me about what the process looks like, you know, for the benefit of the listeners, and what potentially you've witnessed on the other side of these releases.
So the process depends if you're doing a one-to-one session or a group session. Group sessions are usually led by the music, and one-to-one sessions are like deeply intimate. There'll be no music, and it'll be a really personalised journey between facilitator and participant. So if we were doing a one-to-one, for example, I'd check in with you, I'd ask you how you're doing, and we'd run through like a gentle scan of the body and really seeing if you can get in touch with your felt sensations that are on the inside of the body. And we look for the places in the body that hold tension. And we very much use these 6 elements that BBTRS has to unlock that tension and see what's behind it. And usually when we get into the process with a participant, they'll find an area of tension, and there'll be some kind of emotion that's held there. Like it might be a bit of anger, might be feeling anger, and it's felt in the jaw as tension, the jaw's tight. And we might get into a session where they're breathing, they identify that this is the area. I might apply some hands-on body work, run my fingers down the jaw, and that might create a release. But then behind that, there's this deeper layer of the sensation in the jaw is just the holding pattern. And there's something much deeper that wants to be expressed and felt. So we would ask the participant, when you feel the emotion coming up here, this anger that's being released, don't go into the story of anger. Oh, I hate this person, I hate that, he wronged me, this and that. Because when we go into story, we may as well be back in the situation, because the mind doesn't know the difference between the story and the here and now. So we say, stay away from the story and stay with the sensation and watch how it moves through the body, because it does. So the pain and anger that will be felt in the jaw as tension, as it's released, it might move to somewhere else. It might come down to the heart space, and then that layer gets peeled back, and that person realises, I'm not actually angry, I'm actually longing to be loved.
Lovely.
And that's how we really get into the deeper layers of releasing things. Go past that surface level, go much deeper by tracking the sensations in the body and just being with that person and supporting them. And for the second part of the question, what's on the other side of that? Yeah, just liberation for people. To go through, to relive a traumatic experience or release some kind of deeply held tension. To do it with someone there holding you is very special, because oftentimes when we go through these experiences, we're by ourselves and there's no one there to hold us. So by having someone there, it's just a game changer.
Yeah.
It allows us to feel safe.
Yeah.
And it allows us to drop it and let it go. Because we actually know, hang on, there's an experienced facilitator here who's holding me.
Yeah.
Who is in this room giving his gifts to hold me.
Yeah.
So I can actually I can let it go.
And energetically, you're being held, but also physically, do you know what I mean? So how would that look as a sense of just, you know, conscious touch, a hug, you know, or what does that look like?
Yeah, it depends. You've got to really get into a resonance with your client, and obviously it is permission based. You say, are you okay with touch? And maybe with some people who I feel like they say yes, but really they're a bit resistant. I'll say to them, well, can you give me a hand? And is this level of touch okay? Is this pressure okay?
Yeah.
Especially with women as well, because a man touching a woman can be a real edge.
Yeah.
And same for men, being touched by women can be a real edge depending on your wounding. So you have to really dial into sensitivity and just feeling the other person. But yeah, the touch can come in the form of really deep body work, or it can come in the form of support of I really feel like this person just needs a pair of arms around the shoulders now. And that's all it's needed. They just need to feel like they're supported.
Sometimes we're conscious of our wounds and trauma, and then sometimes we're not, are we? You know what I mean? And I think what you said there is like there's a longing to belong, and I think again maybe underneath that there's a longing to connect. Do you know what I mean? And I think with a lot of the modalities I've explored and the stuff I feel into and share with the practice of through meditation is how do we create, well, not safety in the body, but how do we come home to our nature? You know what I mean? Like, I think nowadays we live a life so far in the head, don't we? You know what I mean? Everything's made, all these decisions are made just at this level of logic, isn't it? You know what I mean? And life's become a very heady process for us. And there's so much magic, there's so much trauma, there's so much intelligence in the body, you know, and I know the breath becomes a bridge to access that. Do you know what I mean? To access them deeper layers of intelligence. And when we can like release the trauma or remember the homecoming of naturalness, or create them conditions for the body to rest in its nature and I suppose access the parasympathetic side of the nervous system, which becomes a sense of rest and digest. You know, I think people are in they've normalized stress, haven't they? Do you know what I mean? You know, they live in such a stressful response nowadays where the nervous system's constantly firing, and at the level of our chemistry we're releasing cortisol, and then we, you know, within that we actually enter a different part of the brain. We become more polarized, you know what I mean? So, you know, and within becoming more polarized, we become more fragmented. We're scatty. And then people are almost just reaching then for things like instant gratification to try and soothe, or, you know, I mean, the alcohol's just one, you know, substance that I can spring to mind right now where, you know, you feel like, at that end of the day, people have a glass of wine and they go, oh, and they sink sort of back into some sort of relaxation, don't they? You know what I mean? And but we're giving our power away to substances, you know, to be able to drop back into this naturalness. And I know for me, meditation's such a massive journey of reclaiming your awareness, really, because, you know, it gets hijacked all day, every day. So when we reclaim this experience of awareness, of presence, and we bring it back to the body, bring it back to the breath, and start to allow the body to rest in its nature. You know what I mean? You know, access different parts of the brain, you know, move towards a state of neutrality, you know what I mean, where we're less polarized. And I know from the stuff that I teach is that when we do that, when we practice that daily, actually, we're creating conditions for us to stay close to our naturalness. And when we're very much resting in our naturalness, the feelings, the extension of that are just feelings of groundedness and centeredness and satisfaction and calmness. Do you know what I mean? So, you know, and so what do you, how do you feel the correlation between meditation and then the modality that you're exploring marry each other?
Yeah, well, meditation's a huge part of the modality. It's one of the key elements we use. And what you've just said there, it all comes down to presence. It's like, am I present to what's happening in my experience? And it's so sad because sometimes when we have an experience that's so overwhelming or so painful, we cut ourselves off from feeling and we cut ourselves off from presence, get into alcohol, get into distractions because we're so scared to feel.
Yeah.
And in that process of cutting off, we actually cut off the other side, which is the joy, the heart space,
That's right.
the excitement. And we almost don't realise it, that by not feeling the pain and the stuff that really wants to be felt, we're actually limiting ourselves, our range of feelings.
I think we're afraid to feel, aren't we?
Yeah, we're so afraid to be vulnerable.
Yeah.
And because there's not many spaces for it as well.
That's right.
It's not that there's a lack of courage. There's almost a lack of spaces to be in that vulnerability and explore it. And yeah, once we cut ourselves off from feeling, it's like we're just living this life of unawareness. And that's where, as you said, if we're living a life of unawareness, it gets dictated to us what to like, what to watch, who to be.
Yeah.
Because we're not present.
What to eat, what to drink, when to go out.
Yeah.
And using, you know, almost all of these things as I mean, you talk about feeling and we're afraid to feel, and that's what Giten's book's called, Feel to Heal. You know what I mean? And what people are doing is, because they're so polarized, they are reaching for, you know, the alcohol, they're reaching for the food, they're reaching for this, they're reaching for that, you know, and it gives them potentially a sense of feeling, doesn't it? You know what I mean? But, you know, it's
short-lived.
It's short-lived. You know, it's short-lived. And I think the capacity to be able to be with oneself and to actually observe and feel what's alive in your own experience. You know, I mean, one suggestion I can make here, which is, you know, such a simple one, is like like being in the supermarket, you know what I mean? And next minute there's the queue. You know, the queue's a bit bigger than you'd like it to be, or there's only one, you know, sort of one till open, you know what I mean? And all of us,
taking forever to scan the
all
item.
of a sudden, this like feeling of anger might come up, and then there's impatience, do you know what I mean? And then frustration, and then you're almost like, you know, you see people rolling their eyes or fucking, you know, like looking at the watch, do you know what I mean?
Making a
And
little snide comment.
and when really, like, them moments do come to pass, but actually just feeling the experience of like, wow, okay, there's what's going on for me. I'm impatient. I'm angry. You know what I mean? And it's not that particular moment's only triggered something for us to look at. But we don't ever look at that stuff, do we? You know, because it takes, you know, a level of courage, which is you know, the energetic vulnerability, to actually say, this is mine. This is my stuff, and I'm going to take a look at it, and I'm going to own it, instead of blaming and shaming the girl, or it's Marks and Spencer's fault. You know what I mean? Or wherever you shop, by the way, you know. For me, it's Marks, Season Speak. Get them Percy pigs in. But, you know, and unfortunately, as a society, we're blaming and shaming, aren't we? Do you know what I mean? We're pointing fingers. It's always somebody else's fault, when really the world is, you're going to be triggered by the world. You know what I mean? And so that people don't see these triggers as an opportunity, do they, Jonny? You know, they see them as a problem. You know, and then they're quickly taking it out. They're quickly projecting that anger, frustration, impatience that they're feeling onto the world. They neatly place it onto everyone else, apart from owning it and saying, you know what, this is my experience. I'm feeling it. I'm okay with it now. You know what I mean? It's not a bad thing. But it's something then, there's stuff underneath this.
They're almost a gift. Like, them triggers are a gift. They're like, it's it's happening for us,
Yeah.
not to us.
Yeah.
It's happening for us to just take a look inside, see what boundaries getting crossed or what's agitating us, and initiate ourselves into a deeper sense of self and become the person who can just stand in a big long queue and be absolutely cool with it.
Yeah, yeah.
Like that's the Jedi stuff, actually being present, as we've said, using meditation and daily practice, capturing yourself in those moments and being like, wow, I can actually just choose to dial into a different frequency. Yeah,
That's right.
I'm cool with this.
And it's not letting the outside world govern your inner landscape. Yeah, it's going to trigger the inner landscape. But then I think, unfortunately, I think as a culture, especially in our, in the West, somewhere along the line, this opportunity to take a look at the human experience, it's almost a skill, isn't it? You know what I mean? And then to be able to be with these experiences, because we naturally move towards pleasurable things and move away from non-pleasurable things, and so that's why we do reach for the things that please us. And we should, for me anyway, I feel like we should create a culture, our own culture, which does bring about a level of emotional satisfaction. But the world ain't always going to go your way, do you know what I mean? So instead of resting in that victim mentality where, as you said, it's happening to me, it's not, it's happening for me, you know what I mean? It's moving through me, actually. And there's now an opportunity to change the frequency, change the mindset, notice how the stories I'm playing, the movies that I'm running, in these experiences, and to take a deeper look. And I mean, most people don't even know what patience means. You talk about patience, it is a virtue, but they don't know what it means. I mean, I suppose it has many different meanings. I teach my daughter that I'm happy to wait. Patience, it means I'm happy to wait. Do you know what I mean? And next time, like, if you're in a queue and that moment it all, pops for you and you go, I'm happy to be here. I'm happy to wait, knowing it's going to pass. You know what I mean? Instead of me shaming and blaming. Yeah. And I'd like to probably extend that for a moment, because, being a man, and we're talking about vulnerability for a moment, and we're talking about, what it takes to be open. It's a little bit, it's a bit, it's a bit more difficult for a man to be open, isn't it? You know what I mean? And to share his experiences, or, when we do maybe share our vulnerabilities with others, I think we're afraid to, because we perceive and assume that we're going to get judged for it, judged for being weak or perceived weakness. Because there's a lot going around at the moment, isn't it, around male suicide. I know we were watching the UFC last week, and unfortunately, another young man in Liverpool, took his life, and you wonder what's underneath all this. Do you know what I mean? And there's this fear of speaking up, and I think there's probably there's many different things here that we could probably lean into, but I think as a society, it's people very quickly can weaponize vulnerabilities, can't they? You know what I mean? Or get on with it, or there's nothing wrong with you, when actually, and then we close up even more, don't we? Yeah. So, I think a lot of people actually just don't know how to deal with vulnerability, do they? It's not like dealing with holding space for somebody else, because when someone's vulnerable with you, we don't know how to handle it, do we? I think a lot of people are just naturally competitive. Do you know what I mean? Or we've got this image that we're upholding. So next minute, when you show a softer side or an open, a lot more openness and vulnerability, or even then extending that to saying, listen, I'm struggling, I'm struggling. This is my experience. I'm struggling. I'm going through a hard time, and you share that with others. Like, it's almost like people don't know how to hold it and deal with it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's that competitiveness that you've just touched on. That competitiveness between men is the biggest barrier to people opening up. Because if you're in competition with another man, you can't show him your vulnerable side, because it means you're weak. Yeah. And automatically he's the winner, he's the victor. And same goes if you want to be vulnerable, but that person's in competition with you, and he's not in a space willing to hold your vulnerability. You can't open up because he's trying to compete with you. And it's not taught for young men or anywhere not to be in competition with each other. And it's just the biggest barrier to even getting a conversation going.
Yeah.
I'm sure there's many lads who'd love to talk about their experience, but as you say, you feel like they'll be shamed. It'll be weaponized against them. It'll be used as the shout in the group, get on him.
Yeah.
It's like that competition's just got to get kicked away.
Women are a lot more holistic, aren't they? You know what I mean? You know,
supportive of each other.
Yeah. You know, and it must be really difficult for men, you know, to almost just find, you know, an outlet, you know what I mean, to be able to talk about this stuff, you know. So how are things crystallising for you then, like moving forward? Obviously, I know you've just been to Greece, you know, so that was an extension of, you know, what you've done in Poland.
Yep.
So what did that look like? What was the, because I know you were in an Osho retreat centre, was it? Or
yeah, it was an Osho meditation centre in this lovely little island on Greece. Yeah, just one hell of an experience, really. The format of the actual centre, every day there's a schedule of Osho meditations you can participate in. They start from like 5 a.m. up until the evening meeting at like 5 p.m. And they're designed in a specific order to really help you just get into the body at the beginning of the day, work through everything, and then at the end of the day, just shake it off and let it go.
Nice.
So I spent 10, 11 days just in this real routine of up at 5 in these meditations, active, dynamic meditations. And in between that, there was a 4-day workshop with Giten and biodynamic breath. So it was like a really jam-packed 10 days, really.
Yeah.
It was just like supercharged, super connective, super open. Yeah, it feels like I've been gone for 10 years. Glastonbury seems like years ago.
Yeah, last year.
Yeah, it's crazy. In places like that, the time changes. Time just bends and slows, and yeah,
so much can happen in a short space of time, can't it?
Yeah, so many deep insights and real homecomings, and yeah, it's a very special place, actually.
Yeah, do you feel like you're deepening now your connection with this modality and, you know, strengthening, I suppose, your techniques and your own way of how to deliver, you know, and hold space, you know?
It's nice to see the progress. It's nice to do that workshop, and I have been having sessions with people, but I've just kind of kept it private.
Yeah.
Been like invite only.
Nice.
And then to come back to the in-person stuff and actually see how far I've come. Because I came up with real edges while I was there in Greece, like real edges. I was like, Jesus Christ, this is hard. And it almost like brought me into a place of my own wounds. I'm like, oh, I'm not good enough to do this. And then I thought, no, I'm actually here to be challenged. This is what training is about.
Because not everything's in person, is it? I know you can do some stuff, you know.
I've been doing a mixture of online and in-person sessions. So yeah, it was nice to include that workshop in just this lovely retreat in the Osho Centre. Like the best of both worlds, really. Bit of training, bit of hanging out, connecting with new people, and a bit of deepening my own sense of self. So yeah, I feel like we could just do another podcast completely on Greece, but
yeah. What's the weather like?
Oh, fantastic. I was staying in a tent though. That was my only gripe. 10 days in a tent in Greece. I was just like, oh my God. Every day was baking hot, but yeah, once you get in that sea, you get held by the sea.
Yeah.
A long day. Get in the sand, get in the sea, watch the sun go down.
Yeah. Meeting new people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Miles on the soul, really.
Yeah.
As for anyone who's been travelling, they know being outside of the city, outside of that bubble.
Yeah.
It is something special.
Yeah. And, you know, obviously you're talking about being in, you know, there's a whole, there's a whole timetable, you know, you can get up, you're exploring these amazing, you know, technical meditations, you know what I mean, which were designed by Osho. And they are designed to, especially he did these for the Western mind, didn't he? You know what I mean? You know, for people who are like so up in the head and so logical, is like to help you drop into the body. You know, and what an incredible experience. Like, I admire anyone who does a bit of travelling. I know you went on your own, do you know what I mean? Who travels on their own, jumps on an airplane and seeks out and, you know, sniffs out these amazing places on the planet, you know what I mean? It's almost like you're on a different planet, isn't it? You know, you 1 minute you live in Anfield and there's a vibration there. You live next to the, you know, the football ground, and, you know, you're close to the town centre, and all of a sudden, you know, you're somewhere else, you're in Greece, you know, you know, you're on the beach, you're in this amazing commune, and it's just like, wow, this worlds apart. Do you know what I mean? Worlds apart. How do then, like, you know, what would be your invitations for, like, you know, let's say a normal fella off the street, or a normal woman, do you know what I mean, who's like looking to deepen the connection? Because sometimes people can't travel around the world, can they? Do you know what I mean? I know, I don't want to take this away from your own personal story, because, you know, you've obviously still got your own responsibilities in your life. But, you know, for people who want to start feeling into this stuff, you know, where do they start? Do you know what I mean? Like, you know I could extend that to saying, well, really, it's about having the will. It starts with will, doesn't it? It starts with a personal will, and then the decision to say, I'm going to do something else. I'm going to mix up my bag. I'm going to try something new. And then for me, that is potentially creating space of a morning time. You know, so it starts with maybe a morning routine, doesn't it? You know what I mean? And how does that look like? Because we're talking about Osho dynamic meditations here, do you know what I mean? So, you know, if you could give a small insight into someone who's never done anything like this before, and like, you know, getting into the body. I mean, I suppose going for a run gets us in the body, doesn't it? Going to the gym gets us in the body. You know, so there's all different types of modalities that actually get us into the body. You know, I'm sure when people go to the gym of a morning, you know, they're ready for the day, aren't they? Yeah. Do you know what I mean? They're ready to go move towards the professional endeavours. They're ready to, you know, tackle what's in front of them, whatever that looks like. But yeah, give us a brief insight of maybe what you'd invite people to start feeling into with some of the modalities you've been exploring.
Yeah, I'd definitely invite someone who's absolutely brand new to it, and they've got that feeling that they want to explore themselves a little bit deeper, but might not know where to start. I'd invite them to pick any Osho meditation and do it for 21 days straight, because he designed them to be a 21-day process. Yeah. Because each day it just peels back more and more layers. And it keeps it simple in a way. It's not something crazy that changes every day. It's the same thing every day. It's just your experience of that same thing. Yeah. And the way these meditations are designed, to actually open you up, but then have that period of deep reflection afterwards. Like going to the gym's great to get in the body. I love going to the gym. It's great to get that masculine energy, pump it. But it's not like you're going there to work on yourself and reflect. Yeah. You're going for a purpose. Or if you're going for a run, you're going to let off steam and then you come back home. But these meditations are actually designed to make you have a process, and then there's time at the end to really integrate and really have that spaciousness in your inner world where things start to come through. Yeah. And as we said before, living a life of unawareness and a life of presence, by doing that 21-day process, you'll start to come into like real presence, and the answers will come to you. Yeah. You won't have to go looking for them. Your body will say, you know what, I really want to explore that. I love to do that as a kid. Yeah. Wow, I forgot I loved doing that as a kid. Let me try that out now as an adult and see how that feels. And it's almost like it's already been written for us. Yeah, it gives birth to a lot more like receptivity, doesn't it? You know what I mean? We become more receptive. We tend to almost turn on this sensitivity, you know what I mean? And start to respond in a different way in our lives instead of this sort of same shit, different day attitude. It's like almost like becoming, isn't it? Or shifting into a new paradigm, new narrative, new ways of thinking, and I know that can come with these meditations, Osho dynamic. I mean, that can come with, changing a routine, can't it? It can come through reading books. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? Watching YouTube videos, anything. And so I think it is about, looking what's on offer, you know what I mean? And how we can potentially start to explore new ways of being, you know what I mean? Recreating ourselves. I know you told me a little story about, the on your last night in Greece, and they were talking about like changing your name and stuff. So let's run into that story there, and because I know it's very coherent to what we're talking about in becoming somebody new, or recreating your current reality, or stepping into a new identity. Yeah, so it was funny. It was on the last day that I was there, and it's the real magic of Osho Afros. You can be on your final day, in the last 30 minutes, you can have a conversation with someone, and it's the most insightful thing you've heard over the past 10 days. There's no shortage on magic in that place. So yeah, I was just at the dinner table with a guy called Nirvan and a lady called Zahira, and the name Nirvan and Zahira aren't birth names. They are names those two people have given themselves. Nirvan's name was given to him because he lived in an Osho community for that long. He gets given an Osho name, and Zahira's was self-chosen. And I was kind of just like listening into this conversation, and they had a really deep chat about how we can just create whatever reality we want. And one of the biggest things that limits us into moving into a new reality is this story that plays out of the past. And Zahira was talking about how when she changed her name, she wasn't changing who she was. It was just a deepening of herself and where she was at. But with this new name, there was no story attached.
Yeah.
It's where she was now, and all that baggage is left behind. And Nirvan was the same. He said, I've got like 3 or 4 names. I've got Peter, Chris,
Right, Dave.
Nirvan, Jonny Hunter. So I was just looking, and it really struck me because I've never thought about it before.
Yeah.
And it was just like, this was a completely new concept to me.
Yeah.
I thought about it and I thought like, wow, I wonder how that'd feel in the body to do that. It takes balls.
Yeah.
Imagine coming back to Liverpool and
Changing your name.
changing your name.
Yeah.
And I thought, wow, that's such a brave, courageous thing to do. But also it's so deep that there's just a knowing in yourself that I can roll with this new identity and new name.
Yeah.
And I'm just bringing myself into the world as this new person.
Yeah.
And yeah, I was sat in the airport and just sitting on my phone, just whittling the time away. And I had my foot on my bag and my luggage tag said Jonathan Hunter. And I was just looking at it, and then the words J and O disappeared and it just said Nathan Hunter. And I just looked at it and I was like, Nathan Hunter. How does that feel? And it wasn't like a feeling of contraction and, oh, imagine what people think when I call myself Nathan when I get home, or the names, da-da-da-da. It was just like super expansive. It was like, imagine all the potentiality that Nathan Hunter could bring into the world. And I was just like, wow, I think when I get home and I do start making my offerings public, they're going to be under the name of Nathan Hunter.
Wow.
And I'll still be called Jonny when I go out for a drink and have a laugh at the lads. It'll still be Jonny, but how I choose to represent myself in this work and in the world moving forward is Nathan Hunter.
Yeah.
Because it's still a part of me. It's just this deepened version. And yeah, it was lovely to get that insight from 2 people in the last hour of me.
And then the next day being in the airport.
And it's there in front of me.
Yeah.
It's almost like synchronistic. It was like, wow, I've just downloaded that from them a couple of hours ago, and then it's landed for me a couple of hours later.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think it's a beautiful practice, and I totally get why Osho came up with it for all the people who lived in his commune.
Yeah.
Like, what a celebration of self to self-identify. We don't get to pick our name at birth.
Yeah, that's right.
We don't get to pick the story that other people attach to us.
That's
So
right.
why don't we just fuck that off and
Yeah.
just say, hang on, this is me. I choose to be this person.
That's right.
And yeah.
There's so much power in it, and potency and bravery.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? You know, you've really, I think it takes a level of open-mindedness to say, you know what, yeah, I'm going to explore that. I'm going to give that a go. I'm recreating my current reality. And that might be in the case of changing your name or just altering it. You know, it's still in there. Do you know what I mean? You know, and a lot of people tend to have, they all have, nicknames. Do you know what I mean? You know, and whatever that is, and almost within these nicknames or these labels that we get given by others, you know, we almost then end up representing a certain aspect or a mask, I suppose, or an identity of what actually people are wanting to see from us in their moments. You know what I mean? We do it unconsciously all day, every day. You know what I mean? So it's a really powerful and interesting concept to adopt, and I love how, you know, already there's been a synchronicity to think, wow, okay, Nathan Hunter, you know, and there's a newness to it, isn't it? It's like brand new. This is who I am, you know. And then if someone says, well, what do you do? We say, well, this is what I do. It's what Nathan does. Do you know what I mean? And then you still got Jonny. You know what I mean? So this is what Jonny does. This is what Nathan does. You know what I mean? And and almost just really expanding the possibilities of what you can achieve, explore, put into action, and enjoy. You know what I mean? I think the big one here is like, you know, of wanting to enjoy it. You know what I mean? You know, it can almost become like a really fun game. You know what I mean? So exploring your life, of how that can unfold. Because I know underneath that the intention for you is the values you've been speaking about. Do you know what I mean? So no matter maybe what identity there is, there's core values for you. You know, I'm not saying core virtues. Your core values, the values of, you know, wanting to serve, wanting to connect, wanting to expand and transform. You know, and you know, the way you behave, you know, it runs through, you know, these identities that you are adopting, moving into, creating. You've created, you know, Nathan Hunt is a creation, isn't he? How's it feel?
Super expansive, limitless.
Yeah.
It's like, why put a cap on anything you can be?
Of course. A lot of people play small, don't they? I think, as you were saying before, you know, we come into this world and so many people give us our identity, you know what I mean? And they'll tell us what we like and what we don't like. It's something that I always, you know, try to illuminate for people's consciousness is like, especially if you're born in Liverpool, you know, an easy example is, you know, it'll be somebody outside of yourself, especially if you're a man, for example, you'll be a red or a blue.
Yeah.
He's a red, he's a blue, that's it now. You know what I mean? And somebody's given you a limitation, a culture for you to adopt. Do you know what I mean? You know, once a blue, always a blue, and all, you know, well, once a red, always a red. Do you know what I mean? And so straight away, you're put into a culture, aren't you? Do you know what I mean? And then that can then develop as well. He's a Catholic, or she's a this. Do you know what I mean?
And then you have to play within the confines of that label.
Yeah. And most of the time, it's just to please mummy and daddy.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And, you know, so, you know, with a lot of the work that I know we're both inspired to feel into, you know, there's many different sorts of psychotherapists, you know, and around this type of work where, as a child will self-sacrifice its own truth to please the, you know, the mother and father and what words am I looking for here? To please, you know, our caregivers. Do you know what I mean? To make them happy, you know, and so it becomes good behavior gets rewarded, bad behavior doesn't. And so then life becomes this, oh, if you do this, you get that. I know I do it with my own child, and it's, you know, there's no rule book for this stuff, but I try to check myself and catch myself when I'm saying, don't do that, or you won't get this.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Or, good girl, you've done that, so now you're going to get that. Lolly ice, whatever, chalky buttons, pepper pig.
Dangerous, them chalky buttons.
Yeah, you know what I mean? And so straight away, my child is being conditioned to go, all right, if I behave in a certain way, I'm going to get this. If I do that, I won't. And yeah, it's it's very, I mean, for me, who you know, who I'm always trying to really take a look and check myself, and now being a caregiver. You know what I mean? Not just to a child, but actually to others. You know what I mean? You know, how do I behave around others, and you know, how much am I owning my own stuff? You know, how much am I turning the gaze back on myself? How much am I checking my own, you know, my own experience? And for me, this is the human experience, isn't it? You know what I mean? It's the human experience. It's the greatest adventure that I feel like I'm ever going to have. Do you know what I mean? Is to actually, you know, master. And stay close to our nature, you know what I mean? And I think to access our naturalness and to be more receptive and to listen to this, almost this inner guru, you know, and that is just our intuition, you know what I mean? It's being receptive, you know, instead of just always getting an old identity, our past, which is placed upon the present moment each and every day, you know what I mean? And so yeah, it's super interesting stuff, and I know that we're both inspired to and we have many conversations on all matters related. And we're pretty lucky, really, because we're surrounded as well by a lot of men and women who are very interested in these matters. So it's almost, you know, it continues to not just feed our growth, but it continues to be a mirror, doesn't it? For to keep checking ourselves. You know, so accountability is a big one, isn't it? You know what I mean? Who holds you accountable?
Myself. It's got to be number one, yourself. Hold yourself accountable. If you rely on others to hold yourself accountable, yeah, it's just not as consistent as it can be. You've got to look yourself in the mirror every day and say, am I living this day with presence?
Yeah. Am I telling the truth? Am I being integral?
Am I feeling what needs to be felt? Or am I just going out the door with a head full of projections and placing them on other people? And yeah, that's what a self-designed life is. A life of self-mastery is being able to look in the mirror and hold yourself accountable for where you're going and how you're showing up in the world. Yeah,
because we do project, don't we? I think if we, you know, it's a shame that I feel like we're not taught this human behaviour, you know, in our system of teaching, schooling. Do you know what I mean? And you know, what is a projection? Why do we project? You know, what are we trying to protect? A lot of the time we're just trying to like almost either promote or protect an image of ourselves, you know what I mean?
Totally.
You know, so this is what causes this separation from others. And it is important for me that I think we do celebrate our uniqueness and our own unique personality and express these gifts with the world. But at the same time, you know, like honouring that we're all here together. We've all incarnated at the same time. You know, there's no right or wrong method. Do you know what I mean? You know, it's holding yourself accountable, coming, you know, staying close to your own centre, you know, getting your feet grounded, and then, and moving into, you know, your daily life, or your life situations with you know, with a sense of connectedness and openness and you know, and awareness. It comes back to awareness, really, doesn't it? You know, so then, you know, moving forward, then for you, Nathan Hunter, you know, I know, you know, we work alongside each other, don't we? And there's some really exciting things that we're birthing at the moment, isn't there?
Super exciting.
You know, I know there's been a lot of wonderful experiences we both had, you know, in the community, you know, with a lot of people who've done the meditations and you know, moved towards, you know, building their own culture and the lifestyle, especially with the level 4 intake. But you know, we're about to give birth to almost an interactive platform, aren't we? You know, which brings in a lot of the work that you still love to explore, which I know is that sort of digital. You know, because you know, you said at the start of the podcast, if anyone was listening, you said he was a wizard. You know what I mean? And so you enjoy that wizardry, don't you? You know, when it comes to creating, playing with photography, creating videos, and then sharing them back and, you know, back through the digital platforms, you know, for people to see and explore. And so, you know, I wonder what's next for you, you know, with this new identity, but also, you know, I know you still love and you've got so many gifts in so many areas. What does that look like?
I think for Jonny Hunter, the mission stays the same. It's to capture these amazing moments of realness that we see on retreat, that we see in community and meditation. It's to be there, capture it and transmit it back to the world and bring more people into the community. I guess for Nathan, it's to start stepping up and leading and serving in the modality of BBTRS. And yeah, since I've got back, I'm going to actually release 2 circles. I'm going to do a men's circle with BBTRS incorporated in the sessions.
Nice.
And I'm also going to do a mixed circle
Lovely.
for men and women. And that's going to be all geared around getting back in touch with the body, our felt sense.
Nice.
And being able to express what we feel through the body, through our words, through our expressions. So yeah, that's something I'm really excited to bring in. I've been keeping it behind the scenes at the moment. I've invited a few people privately, so I've filled up a few spaces.
Nice.
But I think it'd be nice now just to let everybody know that that's what I'm going to be bringing into the world in the next few weeks. And if anyone feels called to explore themselves and the body and a deeper sense of themselves, just drop me a message and come and join us.
And you spoke there, and there's a lot of movements in Liverpool now, and there's a lot of practitioners holding space, and especially now more than ever, there's this sense of urgency, isn't it? Especially for men. I don't just want to, I don't never want to just exclude women here, and the struggles and the adversities that they go through on a daily basis. But just sort of rounding this off, that there's a problem with suicide, isn't there? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think, again, I bring that moment that Paddy had, Paddy The Baddy on UFC, and he just had a friend who's literally just, took his own life, you know what I mean? And for anyone listening to this who's connected to that young man, Ricky, I hope this is okay to just share this information right now, because it will help others. So, but it was a friend of Paddy's. He was a very well-known lad. I know people who knew the lad, and I believe he was such a lovely lad. And there's just stuff going on under the surface, isn't there? So I think now more than ever, unfortunately, these experiences where men are taking their own lives, it's bringing about a deeper awareness, isn't it, for other men to come forward. You know what I mean? To come forward and then for a man like yourself who's been doing incredible work, personal work, behind the scenes in private, and then now being able to hold a space for men to come together and explore the work you're doing, and just even to just you're talking about a circle. These men's circles, they're powerful, aren't they? Where we can just vocalize some stuff, you know what I mean? Vocalize stuff where it's not going to be shamed, it's not going to be weaponized, and a feeling of just like, wow, I've just shared something that in a circle. Sometimes it needs to be in a circle of men you don't know. Yeah, you know what I mean? So there's no emotional charge or relationship to friends. Groups, it's just like, okay, wow, I've just shared something there. It was held, it was held by the facilitator. It was held by the circle. Because then there's, with these things, there's some simple formalities that you can, bring into the circle that if everyone can respect, it can become a really potent, powerful experience, can't it?
Yeah. Needs to be more spaces for men, more leaders stepping up and holding the spaces. And never to underestimate whatever modality is being practiced or whatever type of circle it is, how much of a catalyst for change it can be. Yeah. Even if the circle's a one-off, or whether it's a 4-week journey, that can be the turning point for somebody. And in my eyes, the more spaces that are like that and the more spaces that are known, the better. It's the only way it's going to change. Nice. More spaces, less stigma, more leaders. Yeah, lovely. Okay, well, I think we're just naturally towards the end of the conversation. Time for a pint.
Yeah, definitely. I think today's conversation is just, two fellas, speaking about all matters related to the things we love to speak about, personal development and transformation, holding space, presence, vulnerability, trauma release, meditation, movement, all this kind of stuff. And anyone listens to it, I hope you've enjoyed the conversation. Episode 23, something, that I really enjoy getting behind the camera and just having these conversations, because I know these conversations, people are listening, it is about trying to expand people's points of view or trying to offer them a container for them to try new things or to come along and explore, themselves in where they feel safe and held. So yeah, anything else you'd like to say, Jonny, before we wrap it up?
I'd just say to people, give it a go. You've got nothing to lose. Try something, try anything. Explore yourself and go for it. And just fuck that story.
Yeah.
If there's a story in the head, just fuck that story right off. We can be whatever we want to be.
Yeah. Nice advice. Okay, all good. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you next time on the platform Creating Space. If you do want to get in touch with me in any way, shape or form on Instagram, Martin Bow Meditation, send me an email. Check in. And if you'd like to check in with Mr. Hunter here, what does that look like, Jonny?
If you want to check in with me, my Instagram is Wild Heart Hunter, and I'm sure it'll be in the description of however you're viewing this video. So yeah, get in touch.
Lovely. Nice one, Mucker. Love you.
Love you too, brother.
Yeah. Thanks for checking in. Bye for now. Creating Space is sponsored by the Scouse Guru app, an all-purpose meditation app that feeds into all your needs, developing peace of mind, increasing mental focus, lowering stress levels while discovering inner stillness, awakening your potential and educating you on all matters related to human behaviour and personal development. Download the app for free on the App Store or get it on Google Play today.